Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, and turn on notifications so that you will receive alerts when there are new episodes. Go get it.
That's what I tell them. I've been grinding for so long, I wake up and chase my goals. I go out and I go get it. How to code, that's all I know. I don't succeed, then I don't breathe. Success, what does it mean? If I conquer all my goals, then I'm living out my dream. Dig deep, go out and get it. Success Chronicles. Compete until it's finished. Success Chronicles. Go take care of your business. Success Chronicles. It's deeper than just winning. Success Chronicles.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Chip Baker coming to you with another episode of the Success Chronicles. So excited to have Mace Hernandez on with us, a car enthusiast,
Yes, sir.
creative. So excited to have highlight on the Success Chronicles. So first, thanks so much for taking the time to interview with the Success Chronicles.
Of course. Couldn't pass it up, you know?
Well, let's go. Well, let's dive into it. If you don't mind, just share a little bit, about yourself so the audience will have an idea of who you are and what it is you do.
Okay. Well, I'm Mace. I'm 28, or I'm 29, sorry. I'll be 30 this year. I am a full-time automotive technician. I also am a part-timer landscaper. I've been working since I was 13 years old. When I'm not working, obviously I do have a car that, I work on and I take it to shows. If I'm not at work, I'm usually doing the car stuff, going out, meeting other people and, getting ideas and how I'm going to build my vehicle. And there's not really much to me, that's pretty much what my life is. And, I do spend time with my mom, she just had back surgery a couple months ago and she's actually fighting lupus for a really long time. That's kind of where we'll get into it with the whole build and the lupus awareness, further down in the conversation and stuff like that. So that's pretty much it, if I'm not at home, usually with, doing car stuff or at work usually.
Awesome. So let's dive into the whole.
Okay.
So talk to us about your vehicle and the reason behind that.
Okay, so the vehicle actually, I ended up getting into a bad wreck. I had a 2008 Nissan Altima Coupe. I ended up getting into a wreck, like I was saying, and then I ended up needing another vehicle. So I went to CarMax. I picked out, a little Nissan Sentra, whatever I could afford. Didn't think anything about, building it up or anything like that. I was like, we're just gonna keep it stock. And then, so a couple months down the line, COVID hit. So everybody got stimulus. I was still working full time because, with my industry, we were considered, important. So I got full time hours, had the stimulus check. So getting the stimulus check, it kind of kicked me up and, starting the project. And, I just kept going and going and going and going, just kept adding stuff. So when I first started building the car, I actually did camo. I had a camo wrap on there. And then my buddy James, a couple months later, was like, "Hey, I got a deal for, wraps." And I was like, "Okay, what you got?" And he goes, "Well, 1,400 for a full wrap." And I'm like, "Okay, back then that's cheap. Now you can't get that price anywhere."
Yeah.
So with the 1,400, so we full wrapped it in purple. Now I'm born and raised in Houston my whole life. What do people say? What's the color for Houston? And lean, it's purple. So that's kind of why I chose the color, because I'm all about Houston and representing where I'm from and who I am. And so I did that for a while, and then I was like, you know what, it's time for change it a couple years later. And I started reading into, lupus. So my mom's had lupus at a really young age, I believe. And so I was like, let me see if I can do like a new wrap color that she would like, representing the lupus awareness. So that's kind of where it went. I had got it rewrapped, and then I hated the color. So I was like, okay, let me go back and do the other purple. But this time, it actually has, if you look on the vehicle, it has black pillars on the sides, like on the new Nissans and the new Toyotas, which is something my mom really likes. So I added that feature to it, kind of give it a little different, look versus what the other purple was. And so moving forward, after I did all that, I started kind of just adding stuff, with lupus awareness and showing that, and, letting everybody know what it is, because not everybody knows what lupus awareness is. Everyone knows what cancer is and, all your other ones you see all the time. But how many people have you heard talk about lupus and what it is and, what it does to a person and everything else like that? So, and my mom's never been out to a car event. She has a bad knees and she has a bad back. So that's a lot of walking and stuff like that. And she doesn't do well with crowds. So it's just something I do for her. I go out and I represent her, every time I go out to a show and an event, especially with her being my number one support, between her and my girlfriend that I'm with now and everything else like that. So Yeah, I mean, it's came a long way, and I'm striving to put more lupus stuff out there for it, and it is got Gremlins in there, Gizmo,
Yeah.
which I'm kind of thinking now I might be moving aside from the Gremlins and just strictly just focusing on the lupus awareness. I'm not 100% sure after this last event we just had this past weekend.
Hmm.
And again, it started out with just being Gremlin themed, and then I wanted to do
Yep.
something for my mom, so that's why I came with the. If you see, some of the shirts that the Gremlins wears, lupus awareness, or it has some little badge or
Yeah.
something on it to
Yeah.
kind of, make it something different, because there are other people out there that have Gremlins themed or Gizmo themed, and I strive to be different. So that's just kind of where it is with the whole build, and just showing out. And again, I don't want anybody to get discouraged. Whoever watches this or listens, like, who cares if it's a Sentra? Who cares if it's your mom's beat up minivan? Build it. It doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah.
Be different is the key. Be different and just show up and show out. You never know if you might not like your car 100%, but you know what? There's 30 other people that are gonna like your build. So
I love it. I love it. There's somebody that will respect the talent and see it because it
yes,
takes
sir.
work for all of that stuff.
It does work, patience, time,
Yeah.
money. You
Money.
name. Yeah,
Yeah.
money is a big one there.
That's good. Well, what are three things you've accomplished in your life that you're proud of?
Honestly, it would be the person who I've become now that I'm a lot older versus like who I used to be. That takes
Hmm.
years. Every day, we should be working on something, either as ourselves or, we learn something new or, whatever the case might be. I think that's going to be like the number one thing because, I do sit back before all the car stuff. And I'm like, dang, that's who I used to be and now where I'm at. And I'm very happy where I am in life, and where I'm going and who I'm going to keep becoming down the line.
Hmm.
Now the other thing would be my car. My car is my complete world. From being in magazines to, you know, meeting, famous people to the awards that I've won, and winning, doesn't have to be just the awards. It's meeting other people and, and just getting the vibes from everybody liking your build and just everything you can intake when you come into a car event. Even if you don't win, leave with an award, you're still winning because you still got your car there in that event, and you're meeting people. Like I said, that's one of my biggest things with I feel like achieving is because of how far I've came, especially from the background that I've came. When growing up, we're not having a lot of money or worried if we're gonna have food on the table or the lights are gonna be on. So for where I'm at now today, it's just like like I've accomplished a lot. It might not seem like it to other people, but I know deep down, coming from where I
Yeah.
came from, I have, and I strive every single day to do it.
That's
um
awesome.
Now the third thing I would have to say was waking up every day and not giving up and just keep pushing and pushing and pushing no matter what was thrown at me, if it was something in my life or something with the car and just crazy stuff in the world nowadays.
Hmm. Yeah. 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 I love that. So just hearing you talk about your journey,
Hmm.
I love the things behind the cars. Hearing you talk about the three things that you're proud of. I would consider that to be hugely successful. So let's hit on
Yeah.
success. What is your
Okay.
definition of success?
Honestly, on that, I would just have to say is just, being able to reach the goals that you set in place because not everybody can do that. And I know there's always going to be something that, pushes you 10 steps back and you got to, catch back up on where you're trying to go. And success, people don't realize, a lot of times, like for instance, like with the cars, there's things you're gonna try out and then you're not gonna like it or it doesn't work out the way you need to do it. But guess what? Now you gotta go back and you gotta change it. And it's just life is a learning process. It's like a roller coaster. Sometimes you're gonna be up and sometimes you're gonna be down. So it's just, just as long as you got your head on, you just keep on going and at least say that you got up and you at least try. Hey, that's a success there too.
That's right. One day at a time, just do the
Yes,
best you
sir.
can with what you have.
Mhm.
I love that. Well, as we close, Mace, I just want to give you an opportunity to share with the audience where
Okay.
they can go follow you, check you out, and show you some love with all of the amazing things you
Okay.
got going on.
Okay, so I do have all the platforms, but obviously, like a lot of them are from my personal life. So I'm
Hmm.
gonna just give you my car page because that's usually
Hmm.
like where I put all my car people at. On that specific page, and try to keep the other ones, for family and stuff like
Yep.
that. So you
Yep.
can follow me on Instagram. It's htx underscore Centra.
There it is. Well, Mace, again, thank you
Yes,
for
sir.
taking the time to interview with the Success Chronicles. Truly appreciate it, and I wish you continued success.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, because it's definitely a journey.
Oh, no doubt. Each day is a journey, right?
Yeah, most definitely.
No doubt. Well, thank you, and thank you guys for checking out this episode. We'll see you next time. God bless. Go get it.